Every year, Florida lawmakers meet in Tallahassee to decide Florida's fiscal budget. During the 60-day session, senators and representatives try to get bills they file to pass committees, in hopes of getting their plans to the House or Senate floor. This year, lawmakers in the House and Senate filed a combined 3,494 bills. Those pertaining to climate change totaled just 12. One of those bills was filed by Orlando Democratic Representative Anna Eskamani, one of the few lawmakers advocating for bolder legislation when it comes to climate change. Eskamani filed HB 1291. It would have required the state to craft a plan to make Florida 100% based on renewable energy by 2050. Eskamani's bill was referred to 3 committees, but didn't get heard by any.
The dynamic in the Florida House is very top down. So unless this is a priority of leadership, it's pretty hard to get a bill heard, even in this situation of crisis like we have now.
The Orlando Democrat believes there's a lack of understanding among some of her colleagues when it comes to crafting legislation like switching Florida's energy production to 100% renewables.
You have a legislative body that doesn't necessarily considers itself to be tech savvy. We have a few tech leaders in the legislature, and they always kind of chair the conversations around technology. And for some degree, getting to 100% renewable, it's a major tech conversation too. And we're talking about some of the cutting edge solar, wind energy alongside electric vehicles, all these conversations that for some of our lawmakers, they're not really attuned to. So it's up to people like me to educate my colleagues on these subjects so they can feel comfortable talking about it and then ideally support as well.
The first stop for Eskamani's bill was the Energy and Utilities Committee. It's chaired by Ocala Republican Representative Charlie Stone, and he says his committee is looking at all options when it comes to renewable energy. But Stone essentially killed Eskamani's bill by not giving it a hearing in his committee, preventing the bill from being heard in its 2 other committee stops. Stone says legislation like Eskamani's is hard to make cost-effective for the consumer. The U.S. Energy Information Administration is an impartial organization that collects and analyzes energy information. It says in 2007, the operating costs for solar and wind plants were around $64 per megawatt hour, compared to $20 per megawatt hour for nuclear plants and $30 for fossil fuel plants. The cost of building renewable energy plants have been steadily coming down throughout the years, and by 2017, the operating costs for solar and wind plants fell to $31, while nuclear and fossil fuel plants costs increased. Miami Democratic Senator Jose Javier Rodriguez says statements like Stone's are a common misconception.
And I say that the real issue is one of prioritization. I think many of my colleagues in leadership are just intimidated by the problem. They think that there's a gigantic price tag associated with starting to talk about climate change.
Rodriguez sponsored 5 out of the 12 climate change-related bills lawmakers drew up this session. For the past 2 years, he's worn rain boots to session, with hashtag #ActOnClimateFlorida written across them. Rodriguez says making investments that cut emissions and increase Florida's resiliency to a changing climate will not only help Florida environmentally, but economically as well.
And so I think the lack of action is really, from my point of view, explained by the fact that we haven't broken through to show leaders here that it's not simply a question of dollar signs. In fact, we're actually possibly going to save taxpayer dollars, even in the immediate and short term, by talking about climate change and addressing it.
On the other side of the aisle, Spring Hill Republican Senator Wilton Simpson says his party isn't receiving enough credit for the things it's done to move the climate change conversation forward. Simpson chairs his chamber's Innovation, Industry, and Technology Committee, and he believes his colleagues have made strides toward encouraging cleaner energy.
So when I was first elected 7 years ago, one of the first bills I did was the natural gas rebate bill, which has provided billions of dollars of infrastructure for natural gas. And we had many hundreds of vehicles that decided, maybe thousands, that decided to go to natural gas instead of diesel. By doing that, the emissions are half on natural gas versus diesel, right? And so, but we had more than just trucking vehicles and things like that. We had very big progress in that area, so we lowered a lot of emissions.
Simpson is talking about the natural gas rebate program. He filed the bill in 2015, and again in 2016 when it became law. The law offers rebates for government or private entities who convert their trucks to natural gas from diesel. The Florida Natural Gas Association backed the bill, and Simpson went on to receive their Public Policy Champion Award after the bill's signing. But it's unclear to whether natural gas is better when it comes to cutting down on greenhouse gas emissions. The main factor depends on how much methane leaks from the extraction, distribution, and storage of natural gas. Environmental advocates argue that makes Escamani's statewide renewable energy goal a no-brainer. Florida will face environmental, economic, and social impacts related to a changing climate, and Florida lawmakers are slowly acknowledging it. That's a big change compared to a few years ago, where climate change was a term unofficially banned from state environmental reports. Governor Ron DeSantis made it clear in his first 100 days in office, he wants to make the environment a priority, recently appointing a new chief science officer, Thomas Frazier, who said in his acceptance speech, this is a move by a state committed to science-based solutions. But Frazier's primary goal, better handle water management, not a changing climate. So for many advocates like Rodriguez, rebate programs and phrases like we need to figure out how to make it cost effective are simply not enough when it comes to the climate crisis we face.